This video is sponsored by athleticcases.com. Basketball, baseball, football, or soccer, no matter what the sport, you guys can now rock your favorite player on the back of your phone. Use the promo code ZachLee for 10% off your order. Links are in the description box below. Yo, what is up guys? It's me, Zach Lee, and let's just get right into what we gotta talk about today. First up in the news, according to a person close to Kawhi Leonard, he may not be leaving the Toronto Raptors after this upcoming season after all, as this person close to Kawhi was quoted saying this yesterday. He's going to fall in love with Toronto. It's going to happen. He's not going to leave, I'm telling you. Now, I've never personally been to Toronto or even Canada, but from what I've heard, Toronto is a great place to be. And as an organization, they do have one of the larger, more active fan bases in the NBA. Their general manager, Masai Ujiri, even said in a press conference after he made the trade for Kawhi Leonard that the only thing that Toronto doesn't have to offer to Kawhi right now that a team like LA would have to offer is pretty much championships.
I think there's a lot to sell here. Our team, our culture, our city, our ownership. We have everything here except a championship, in my humble opinion. I don't think we lack anything in this city. We have great fans. We have a great organization. We have a great following. I think we have a great country. There is something about this place that reaches out to the whole world, and we're proud of that, and we're going to continue to sell that, and hopefully it's an appeal not only to him but to more NBA players.
So, you know, this could be the Paul George situation all over again. We all know that before Paul George was traded at the Thunder, he had his heart set on joining the Los Angeles Lakers. There was no question about it. But after he was traded to OKC, he wound up liking it there. And what was the result of that? Him signing a contract to stay there for the next 4 seasons. So if that can happen for Paul George in OKC, then there's no reason that it can't happen for Kawhi Leonard in Toronto. And if it does, I just gotta say, the Lakers should be sick. They should be sick to their stomachs, because this will be the second time that they had an opportunity to land a player that they wanted via trade, didn't pull the trigger, and because they didn't, they missed out on that player completely. Yeah, I'd be absolutely sick if I was a Lakers fan and Kawhi Leonard decides to stay with the Raptors after this season. Next up in the news, Carmelo Anthony and the Houston Rockets just agreed to a 1-year, $2.4 million contract. And we all knew this was coming, but now it's just official. And I just want to say that this has to be a huge year for Carmelo Anthony, considering the way that he played last season. The man has more doubters than he has ever had right now. People saying that he's washed up and no longer even deserves to be a starter in the NBA. So now he has to go to Houston and prove that it wasn't because of him that he was so trash last season, that it wasn't his fault. He just couldn't fit into the mold of the player that the Thunder needed him to be. And the Houston Rockets are really going to need Melo to be great as well. They did get close to beating the Warriors last season. Like, they were this close to doing what everyone thought would be impossible, but of course they fell short. And going into the upcoming season, the gap between the two teams has widened a bit. Of course, the Golden State Warriors added DeMarcus Cousins, while the Houston Rockets, on the other hand, didn't really make any real additions to the team prior to this Carmelo Anthony deal. And besides that, they lost a couple of key rotational pieces. So if they're going to have any chance of finishing the job with Golden State, a large portion of that chance is going to be determined by how good Carmelo Anthony really is, and if he can get anything close to the level he was back when he was an all-star in the NBA. In other news, the Markelle Fultz hype train is still growing. As yesterday, we got a couple of reports coming out regarding the former #1 overall draft pick. And the first one being a tweet from a reporter that said, "A buzz is building around 76ers guard Markelle Fultz. One league source privy to the Fultz workouts has with famed hoops trainer Drew Hanlon tells me Fultz's jumper is rebuilt, and that as a result, the 20-year-old guard is completely different, a vastly improved player." And we got similar reports from a Sixers doctor who said, "Markelle Fultz is going to be very, very surprising this season. You're going to be very pleased with Markelle. He's going to show you something this year on and off the court. I 100% believe this. Knowing the Sixers' history with their lottery draft picks, I have no reason to doubt that Markelle Fultz is about to come back looking like a Super Saiyan this upcoming season. It's the recipe for success for the Philadelphia 76ers. They draft this extremely hyped player out of college. That player has something unfortunate happen to them that caused them to miss at least their first season in the league, but when they are ready and finally fully healthy and step onto the court, it seems as if they had just been training in the hyperbolic time chamber the entire time. Also, I do want to take this time to say that the Sixers have caught quite a bit of flack for striking out on basically all of their free agent or trade targets this offseason. They didn't add anyone new to the roster, really. They didn't make any big moves. Anything, they got a little worse considering they lost Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli. But think about this. If Markelle Fultz does come back healthy and a much improved player this upcoming season, then you could technically think of him as their free agent acquisition, since they really didn't have him last season, because when he did play, that was like 10% of Markelle Fultz. And for our final bit of news, Tobias Harris, who was the main trade piece for the Los Angeles Clippers when they shipped Blake Griffin off to Detroit, has just turned the Clippers down on their 4-year, $80 million contract extension offer. Clippers forward Tobias Harris turned down an $80 million extension offer from the team, but he'll play out his final year of his current deal and be an unrestricted free agent next summer, when he'll be eligible for a 5-year, $188 million max from the Clippers, or a 4-year, $145 million max deal elsewhere. Yeah, there was no way that he was going to accept a 4-year, $80 million deal this season when he's capable of making so much more next offseason. But this thing right here is something that we had to talk about, and it's something that begs a couple of questions. And the first is, what will the Clippers do with Tobias Harris now? Now that they know that he's not willing to accept their 4-year, $80 million offer and is looking to get a much bigger payday next season, what will they do with him? Do they feel as if he is a player that they should be paying 5 years, $188 million to? Because if they don't, you can most likely look for them to move him before they lose him for nothing next offseason, if they don't plan on making him such a lucrative offer. And here's the thing I want to say about this entire situation. Tobias Harris is a great player. He's a guy that can go out there and get you 18-20 points on any given night. One of the better power forwards in the NBA. There isn't a team in this league that wouldn't love to add him to their roster for the right price. But players like Tobias Harris, good quality starters in the NBA, I don't think should be getting paid max contracts, because he's just not on the same level as other max level players in the NBA. If the Clippers go out and give Tobias Harris a 5-year, $188 million deal, then they're paying him as if he was the face of their franchise, as if he was the guy on their team that is going to lead them into deep playoff runs and maybe even bring them their first championship. Things of that nature, when in reality, like I said, Tobias Harris is a really good player. He's one of those borderline all-star type of guy, but he isn't a franchise player. And to allocate that much money into a guy who realistically will most likely never even be an all-star in his career, I don't see how you could justify that. 4 years, $80 million actually sounds really fair for a player like Tobias Harris. That's still $20 million a season, and I think that's the most that you want to pay for a player who should be the third option or just a really good player on a really good team. But the thing is, he knows that even if it's not the Clippers, some team out there will be for sure willing to pay him more than 4 years, $80 million, and he's going to go take that money. And maybe some team will even throw him a max contract, since we're living in a day and age where max contracts are just being thrown out left and right. And that's no hate towards these players. That's especially no hate towards Tobias Harris. I really like the guy as a player. If teams are willing to pay up, if teams are offering you a max contract or more than any other team is offering you, then hey, go take that money, go take that check. But the smart franchises out here aren't going to be the franchises offering players of Tobias Harris's caliber max deals, but it's the teams who, just don't care or do it because they can, because why not, that are making it really hard for the teams that want to compete to build rosters to compete with, because players that they need and could use are getting severely overpaid. I just think if you've never been on an all-star team, you shouldn't be able to sign a max contract because you're not a max level player. How are you going to be a max level player but not an all-star? It doesn't make sense. Anyways, that is going to do it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to sub to the channel and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on future videos. Thank you once again for watching. You guys are the real MVPs, but until next time, I am out of here. Peace!